It's a great pleasure to be here, especially in this beautiful Sunday here in Miami, June 2nd. So almost half of the year 2013 is already over. So we're going to then almost entering the second half. And it is important because we are all here in this life in a journey of progression, in a journey of betterment. So we are here to help ourselves improve. So it's always nice or important, I think, also to look back in what we have done in this last few months of 2013 and see if we are doing that, what we are supposed to do here, if we are progressing in the pace that we should. And according to the answers that we get from our own inquiry, then we make adjustments and see that if we're diverting the path a little bit so that we can get back on track, so that our work here in this earth is fulfilled this time around as much as we can. And today we're going to speak about the most challenging of the goals that we have in our eternal journey through life. And this journey, as we all know, is partly incarnate, as we are today, and partly discarnate, as we will be in the future. Someone shorter, in a shorter time, some in a longer time. But we're always living independently of being in the body or outside of the body or the physical body, in the spirit. We're always living and always progressing. Sometimes we stagnate. We don't progress as much as we should. We stagnate, but there's always a chance that we can continue picking up from where we left off and continue our evolutionary journey. So today is the most challenging. Be perfect. That is not an easy task to do. And this chapter is in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 17. And this chapter, Kardec withdrew it from Mathew, chapter 5, verses 43 to 48. And this section says, "You have heard that it has been said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But then I say to you," Jesus is telling his disciples and everybody who is listening, including us here today, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who despitefully persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and send rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love only those who love you, what reward can you get? Don't even the publicans do the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Don't even the publicans do so? Be you therefore perfect, even as your Father who is in heaven is perfect." This is a magnificent call for us to look into our lives and see what we're doing with it. How different, how are we contributing to humanity or to creation? Because we all are here on a mission. We are here to learn, we are here to teach, and we are here to help humanity evolve, starting with the people who are around us most closely, our family members. So, and this call is wonderful in the sense that as we see society today, we see a lot of hate. I hate thinking of that and seeing that, but unfortunately, it is still true. We still see hate, and we still see a lot of brutality in the world. But you can read the news or listen to the news every day, and you see it. There's bombing from one sect of a religion following the same teachings, and bombing a church or a temple of another sect of the same religion who follow the same teachings. So, and there is this animosity, there is this hate, people who have not yet learned to accept differences. And there's room to accept differences. There's room to incorporate everybody in our society despite the way they think, even if it's different from ours. And that becomes easy for us to understand when we understand that in society here today, everywhere that we go, in our school, in our family, in our neighborhood, there are people in different levels of consciousness evolution. For some people, it is easier for them to understand the wrong from the right and do right and not wrong. But that is a product that happened during their evolution. And they got to a point where it is clear for them to see the difference. And we have in the same society, in the same classroom that we went, we could tell the difference between the students, our classmates, the differences. Some of them have not yet gotten their awareness of what is right and what is wrong. And these people, like one example, from one sect of one religion, bombing the church of other religion. That is a fact. I'm not making this up. No. Just read the news. In the Middle East? In their minds, they're doing right. In their minds, they're protecting the teachings that they think it is correct. But it isn't. It isn't. And they're doing harm. They're doing evil to themselves first, and then obviously to their society. So we see that. Now, when we come here in this Spirit Center, when we're here studying, reading, and trying to learn a little bit more, we're taking that step. We're taking that first step that we want to progress. We want to be better. Not better than the person sitting next to us. Better than we were yesterday. Yesterday. How much have we improved? When we hear Jesus saying, love your enemies, so he's telling us to practice one of the main lessons that we came here to learn, to love, without making a distinction of the people that we're loving, understanding someone else's weaknesses and ignorance. And he compares like the publicans, when they talking about the publicans are like the normal people. People are not religious, especially those who charged money or duties and taxes for the Romans in that case. And they're not religious in their view. So anybody can do that. Anybody can love who loves you. But the challenge is to do the opposite, is to love that one, the person who hates you. And how do you make a new friend? Right? If you make a friendship, you had this person who you called your enemy. That sometimes it is in your mind and not in theirs. They say, why am I your enemy? I haven't done anything to you. And then you can make a new friend. So the challenge here that we see Jesus telling us to do is to do it differently, to do it better. And this is very clear what path that we should all be in. It is of spreading, not only learning love, but spreading love, because we do. Love is a powerful energy. And when we learn that well, we do that well, we are doing good to ourselves. And then obviously it's an energy that spreads that will eventually reach people around us. And then from people, if you live like the family, our family, that's where we start. That's why we live in families, to love, to practice love and forgiveness and so forth. And those are the two great lessons that we are here to learn. So if we do that, we're learning and we're teaching, because our children, for instance, those who are close to us, those who live with us our daily lives, will see that the way we act. And even, unconsciously, that gets into their system, and they're going to do the same thing. If my father or my mother, they treat people like that, nicely, understanding, so maybe that is right, because we are their role models. So we'll do the same. So we have here a big challenge, and it is the way that we progress. But how do we do that? Because our goal, and Jesus is telling us here, be perfect as your Father who is in heaven is perfect. In this chapter, Kardec brings up a point that is very interesting, and it says, not perfect as God. Because if we could reach a point that our perfection was similar to God's perfection, then we would have a problem, because we could be equal as God in our perfection, and that is not so. So we attain this perfection as much as our condition of created spirit allows. So, and if we attain perfection, or some sort of level of perfection, even if it's not equal to God, it's very hard to do so, it is at our advantage. We're going to be very, very happy with our accomplishment, because that is going to affect our own lives, our own feelings and happiness and so forth. So why do we want to be perfect? Why should we seek this path of perfection? Because it's good for us first, because we are individual spirits incarnated this time, and we are the architects of our lives. We create our lives, and therefore our happiness or unhappiness, according to the level of our evolution so far, and according to what we do, how we live our lives. So what can we gain in this attempt to gain perfection, to be perfect? We gain happiness, well-being, joy, and as we learn in the Spirit's book from the spirits themselves, the end of the reincarnational cycle. We do everything that we have to do here. We learned everything that we have to learn here. In life, as you all know too well, on earth, is not easy. It's not easy. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, especially during certain times that we are unhappy for some reason. Things don't happen the way that we would like to. So those moments that is very challenging to us, but moments that are teaching us patience, forgiveness, all those good things. There are periods that we're happy, that we're okay, but there are periods that they don't, things don't happen the way we would like it to be. And we should understand that what happens to our lives now are consequences of what we've done before, either in this life or in past lives. So there's no one to blame but us. So we're lucky that we have a doctrine that can show us those things, how our actions, our thoughts, and emotions affect our lives immediately and in the future. So we have here in the Spiritist doctrine a roadmap, a good GPS that can take us to the place to the destination that we want to go, provided that we make the turns that they tell us to make. Right? Changing our attitudes, changing our thoughts, to better thoughts, obviously. Working on making the inner transformation that we it's so much talked about in Spiritism, and that it is for our own good. So we attain the perfection. It doesn't have to be like a very high level of perfection. Then we end the need of coming to earth or to physical life to learn the lessons or put in practice the lessons that we learned, because there is no need for that anymore. We passed that. We graduated from earth, and we're ready to move on to higher realms of existence. This is, and we hear from the Spiritism, and we don't have to hear from them, just look around. Life on earth is very, it's like your planet is not the most developed that you can see in the universe, and that is sort of an euphemism of saying your planet sucks. It's very hard to live there, and if you're there, it's not because you're a saint yet. But so, it's very challenging. That's why you're there. You have lessons to learn in that life, in that earth, and that's the only place, or the place that you can learn it faster and thus progress faster. Now, and we end the trials and tribulations that are inherent to physical life. Now, the ending of reincarnational cycle is not necessarily we never again reincarnate on Earth or on a planet inferior as Earth, even if we have finished our reincarnational cycle. Sometimes we come to change things, to help humanity evolve, such as the example of Jesus. He didn't have to reincarnate. He didn't have to come here and go live in the Middle East and go through all that he went through, and then finally dying the death that he died. He didn't have to do that if he didn't want to. But it was important, his presence, because it was a moment that Earth needed a quantum leap, or a change. And Jesus obviously changed history, because a lot of people, he brought the idea of only one God. The Judaism had done that before him, but he brought it a step further. And he left the teachings that he left in order for us, if we followed it, we'd change. And the first Christians were the Vandals, the Goth and Visigoths, who lived around Rome, that invaded Rome. And then the seed of Christianity was planted in the empire in Rome, and then those pagans, Vandals, that's vandalism, where the word vandalism come from all their mindset of destruction, they changed radically. And France, German, Austria, all those countries that we want to go and visit, they were the Vandals of that time. And we see the progress there today. And that was because Christianity had that huge impact that transformed humanity. So Christ came, and he was happy. And even though he didn't have to reincarnate, and he didn't stay here too long, just as long as his teachings had already spread, someone had the idea of writing it down, because he never wrote anything. He prepared his disciples and left all his teaching, and that done, he died on the cross and went back home to the spirit world, where we all hail from. Now, life on earth is not easy, so there's a lot of suffering. So why do we go? Why do we suffer? Why do we go through despair, depression, anguish that is very normal in everybody's life, regardless of our social status, of our financial status, religion? We are all susceptible to that, and that always happens one time or another in everybody's life. So we're not the only lucky ones to. So there is a lot of people that share that with us, and we get that the answer from the Spirit's book, question 133, because of our imperfections. not only imperfection, because sometimes we act wrong. We do wrong things. That, of course, has an impact too. But why do we do these wrong things? Because we have not progressed enough to reach that point. But that was not our fault. Just like being a child, being born a baby and then reach childhood is not our fault. It's a step that we need to go through. We were all created simple and ignorant, as we learn from the spirits. And then through our lives, many incarnations, reincarnations, discarnations, we learn and we progress. It's something automatic, so the knowledge is coming automatically as we experience different lives. Sometimes here, sometimes the spirit world, then we gain knowledge. So it's the evolution, just like we evolve when we go to college. If to become a doctor, a medical doctor, a physician, you start taking, the lessons, the simple lessons. Cell biology, anatomy, physiology. And then as you learn those basic things, then you go to the higher subjects, the harder ones. And until you become a doctor, you had to spend like 10 years studying. But that was, and how did the doctor become a great doctor? Because he went through the steps, learning. And as he or she applied himself to that, then gained knowledge to reach a point that it became a great surgeon or a great lawyer or engineer or whatever it is. So in our lives, it's the same thing. We are not the way we are because we want to, or if we still have our levels of ignorance and imperfection. But it's something natural. It's like this natural evolution. But we can speed it up when we know that when we get this knowledge. How do I become better? Why do I suffer? What is it that happens to me that I'm always sick, always unhappy, always depressed? Why? So then we read, question, and answer 133 of the Spirit's book, and we read this. The sufferings of life are often a consequence of the imperfections of the Spirit. Therefore, the fewer the imperfections, the lesser the sufferings. Whoever isn't envious, jealous, avaricious, or ambitious won't have to undergo the torments brought by these feelings. And there are other feelings that cause physical and even emotional imbalance in our lives, and that is hatred. That is the resentment that we carry on, that we harbor against whatever person for whatever reason. Many times simple things. And many times we nurture that resentment that the person that we are resenting doesn't even know that we're resenting her or him for some reason. So, and that is something that has an impact. Spiritually, psychological, and physically, as we're going to take a look in the next slide. In the other one. Imperfections of the spirit. Enviousness, jealousy, avariciousness, or ambition, and as I said, hatred. They are nurtured in the mind, thoughts and emotions. We live our lives by the power of thought. We think things. That's how we do it. There's no consequence, no action, no idea that is not first generated by thought. And thought, thinking, the thinking power, intelligence, is a property of us as spirit. The spirit thinks. The spirit feels. The spirit acts. Or give commands for action, which in our case of being incarnated is then transmitted to the perispirit that are connected, perispirit, spiritual body, which is attached to our physical organs and especially our brain, then we're going to take the actions that originated in those thoughts. So enviousness, when you envy something, when you're jealous of a person for some reason, that is a mind thing, a thinking thing, and then that is translated into emotions, and it is bad emotion. Jealousy, the same thing. The person who dies with most toys win. That is an American saying. That we know that it is not so. So we generate all this thing. We create our life by the way we think, which translate into emotions, and then is going to affect us both physically and emotionally. So I put here there's a connection that we have, spirit, perispirit, and physical body. So we're talking about perfection. This is so we are here in this point that we are thinking ways that we can reach that point which Jesus said, be perfect. So we're here now talking about what this imperfection, how the imperfection that we have so far, that is not our fault, because we're still young spirits, how these imperfections affect us, both physically, emotionally, and mentally, so that we understand what we should do in order to change it. So this is our objective. We are all students here. We are students in life. And we have teachings and we have teachers that tell us, if you take this road, it's better for you. So that's why we're here for. We're learning together. Because we all want, and we're here because we want to be a little bit happier than we were before. So we have our lessons, and we're going to work on them. So we have this, we are all integrated. We're not only integrated within ourselves, spirit, perispirit, and physical body, but we are integrated with everything that around us. We are all energy. And here it gives an example of like the energy surrounding, the energy field. Which one is here. The energy field surrounding. But it's not only surrounding. It is immersed and enmeshed in every cells, in every atoms of our bodies. And the thoughts that we think, obviously, they are electric signals. It's energy every time we think, and we don't think, our thoughts don't stay within our mind, our cranium, within our head. It spreads out. And we can tell that easily sometimes, especially when you have affinity with some people, you're synchronized. I have a lot of that with my younger daughter. That you're doing something, driving or something, and then your daughter says something, or you think of something, and then she says it right there. So you're picking up, you're thinking about it, you pick up. We saw a movie the other day, Safe Haven, Gabrielle and I. Gabrielle is 12 years old. And it was, it's a nice, very heartwarming movie. It's a very nice love story. But the writer was the guy who wrote the book, and then they adapted it to the television. He made a part of this, the book, the film, that was very interesting. And at the end, only at the very end, that you know what it is, and it has to do with spirituality. Has anybody seen Safe Haven? No? Okay. And then I thought that was so clever that the movie stayed on my mind. So that was a Friday night. And then on Saturday morning, we were driving to a friend's house in Kendall, to Kendall, from Homestead to Kendall. And I was there, and my daughter was in the back seat. And I was thinking about the movie. There's no words exchanged between Gabrielle and I. She was there in her back seat, and I was there driving. And I started thinking about the movie. And I thought about certain scenes and how the writer had put that scene together so wonderfully. Gabriella said, "Is that your favorite movie now?" I said, "What?" Is that your favorite movie? The movie that we watched yesterday? I said, yes, but just like that. Just like that. And there are other things that happened also before in other circumstances. I was thinking, and I was so emotionally involved in it that whatever I was thinking was spreading throughout around me. And she was attuned enough, and she could pick it up and answer and ask me a question. Is that your favorite movie now? So when we do these things, thinking and then the emotions, then that is spread from spirit to perispirit to physical body. And it is going to affect our organ systems. Like when you hate, for a feeling of hatred, for instance, at that moment, right? The body reacts in certain ways. We have this fight and flight thing in our physical body that prepares us for fight or flight, depending on the circumstances, or a moment of violence or something, or hatred is one of them. So there's all this hormones and neurotransmitters that are spread throughout the body so that we can get ready, and they're not good. They're all damaging to the physical body. They were used for us when we lived in a time that we're not as developed as we are today, that our fight for survival is much greater than it was before, when humans lived 30 or 40 years only, that got killed either by their enemy or by animals or by whatever. So we have progressed a lot. So we still have those instincts and those physical reactions that affect our organs and our physical health. And it is depending on the way that we live our life, that we think, that we our feelings, that we're going to translate that into either health or unhealth, physical and emotional health or unhealth. And that is going to dictate the way that we're going to feel in our lives, either happy or not so happy. And anyways, it is us. It's originated in our mind, in the way we think and the way we act. So how do we get rid of these imperfections? Time, by living and by learning. By living physical life, by reincarnating and taking up the lessons that we still have to learn, and also by living discarnate life. We're always living and always learning. It doesn't matter when we're here or when we are in eroticity, as Kardec says, the period between incarnations, because we're going to be there, because we still have to come back here. And this, part of the answer to question 224 in the Spirit's book, we have that information, and that we are always learn. We learn also in the spirit life, not only here. And we see from the teachings of Emmanuel and André Luiz, or those through Chico Xavier, that there is a lot of learning that occurs in the spirit life when we live this one. So we're always living. That's how we especially in the other one, in the other life, when we get rid of the physical body, that we have better access to our memories, to what we've done. And we learn that from Spiritism as well, that we're going to analyze things that we did right and wrong. We're going to see what we still need to do in order to keep our progress, and we're going to work on that. And we're going to ask for and be permitted to be reincarnated again and work on those things that we still have to work. So, and Kardec asks, what is the objective of the incarnation of the spirits? A way of attaining perfection. For some, it is an expiation. We are expiating. We are cleansing. We did things that affected our perispirit, that is affecting our physical body. So we come here to expiate, to expunge, to get. It's like when you have, zits, for instance, all those annoying puberty things that come out in our face. They erupt. All that. Those, what we're doing, we're expiating, we're purging impurities that we have in our physical body that needs to come out somehow. So in puberty, there's this avalanche of hormones that are coming, and there are things that the body can't process fast enough, so they have to erupt through the face, mainly. Could be somewhere else, right? I even have dots here. I still have marks here from when I popped my zits. But so there was an impurity from the physical body that needed to come out. So when we come here to this earth and we have physical conditions, for instance, physical impairments, well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're purging, in that case, diseases or things, that imperfections from our perispirit, that hopefully, if we do everything correctly in the next life, the next reincarnation, we're not going to have that anymore, because we already got rid of it. We already attained a little bit, another step towards perfection. So, and how can, Kardec asks in 166, how can the soul that has not attained perfection during physical life complete the work of its purification? It's always purification, purging, by undergoing the trial of a new existence. And how do we do that? How does the soul accomplish this new existence? The soul is us as a spirit. It's not a third person or a third thing. It's I. It's me. So it's each one of us. How do we accomplish, if we don't, how do we accomplish a new existence? It is through its transformation as a spirit. It's through our transformation. Transforming a way of thinking, feeling, and acting, which is not a negative one many times, to one that is positive, to one that is going to benefit us first, and then everybody who is around us. And this is a question that's similar to the one that we read before. What is the aim or the objective of reincarnation? Expiation, purging, progressive improvement of mankind. Progressive improvement. Without this aim, where would be its justice? When we see, like, Europe, we can see Europe before the Second World War, for instance, we could see that there's hatred, there's a lot of bad things happening, negative things that blocked, that hindered the progress of that region. Then there is this catastrophe, World War II. A lot of people died, more like 15 million people or more. So there is this purging of humanity. Use souls that needed to progress, that needed to leave Earth for a time in the spirit world, then later, when ready, would come back down to improve, to expiate, and to purge. And we see today Europe is the part of the world that is the most advanced. So there is this purging of those bad energy, including purging of old souls, ignorant souls that were making that place hellish. They came and changed it. So for us here, we do it individually. We do with our lives, so we get better automatically. And then, of course, we improve the lives of those around us, who mostly we were responsible for, our children and even other family members, friends, etc. Now, how many times do we need to reincarnate, to come here? As needed, until we get rid of everything of imperfection, and we then take that road. We get close to the perfection, that we become pure spirit, and then we no longer need to reincarnate. We no longer need to have the trials and tribulations that are inherent in physical life in order to teach us. For instance, pain teaches us. We're still in a position that we need pain to learn. So why do we suffer something? We do things wrong. And we only wake up when we have pain, when we have, some kind of disease. And then they're awakeners, the big awakeners. Why do I get so sick? So then at that moment, there's this light that goes on, and then you start thinking about yourself. Then you start asking questions of a different nature. Who am I? What am I here for? Why do I suffer? And then is the spirit thinking. It is the spirit, us, the spiritual part of us, thinking as a spirit, no longer as a physical human being, because we know better. Intuitively, we have that knowledge latent within ourselves that we are here to improve. But sometimes we get so engrossed in material life that we forget that part until one day we get some kind of disease or some kind of traumatic experience that wakes us up. And sometimes it is needed, that traumatic experience. Otherwise, we stay sleeping. And is the number of incarnations the same for all? No. Those who advance quickly spare themselves many trials. So it's always up to us. It's always up to us. If we love earthly life and we want to come here a lot of times, so just keep living the way we are, then we'll come here. If we are tired of want to experience other realms of reality later on, then we do better. We make efforts or addition. We go the extra mile so that we don't have to come back here as often. And what we become after the last incarnation, we enter a state of perfect happiness as a purified spirit, no longer needing a physical body susceptible of pains, for instance. So we don't need that anymore. We don't. It's a different kind of body. We're still a spirit. We still have a body, but one that is a nature so subtle that there is no nervous system, no nociceptors or pain neurons, sensation neurons. We don't need all that. It's unbreakable. It's because we are immortal, and then we have a mindset, accumulation of knowledge that will keep us in a perpetual feeling of joy and happiness of being useful. So how to attain perfection? Emmanuel says, love and knowledge are the two wings which will fly us into perfection. So we learn to love, and then we spread that unconditional love that Jesus taught us, loving your enemies and everybody else. And that is the lesson, one of the main lessons, one of the wings in the words of Emmanuel. And the other wing is the wing of knowledge. And the spirit of truth in Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 6, item 5, says Spiritus, that is called. Love one another. This is the first precept. Educate yourself. This is the second. Knowledge. Acquisition of knowledge. This is our 4 lessons: to love, forgive, to do good, and to acquire knowledge. And we hear this on we read this as a part of the answer to question 192 of the Spirit's book. A spirit is us, we. So let's translate this: we must advance in knowledge as well as in morality. If we have advanced only in one of these, we will have to advance in the other as well, so that we can reach the top of the perfection, whatever level it is that it allowed us as created beings, created spirits can attain. And the more a person advances, the more we advance in this present life, the shorter and less painful will be our future trials in our future existence. I think here in this part, it summarizes what we want. And I think that we have attained a level of consciousness so far up to now that we want this road. This is what we want. We want to make efforts now to go the extra mile now, so that the future becomes easier, less painful, and happier, thus closer to perfection. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful Sunday and a wonderful week. We take a moment of thankfulness, thanking our Heavenly Father, Jesus, our Divine Master, for all the